This is the final painting I've been working towards. And here's how it begins. The first wash goes down in shades of gray. I pre-wet the paper and work from top to bottom, keeping the layer smooth and consistent. I resist every urge to touch it before it dries. Even after multiple studies, I still hesitate before putting paint to paper. The earlier studies helped me refine the atmosphere and the contrast. By keeping the reflections smooth and the shapes simple, I was able to get closer to the mood I was after. Grounded, but still a little undefined. I mix the paint darker than it will look once it dries, and I mix a few different gray tones for variation. It's easier to paint the buildings and their reflections with a consistent value. Later layers will darken the foreground. These first shapes go in quickly, just enough to establish structure without locking anything in. This part always looks simple, but it sets the balance for everything that comes later. I repeat the process on the left and add a light warmer tone to separate the buildings from their reflections. The distant bridge goes in with several steady strokes to connect the two sides of the painting. Before I move on to the focal point, I add a few small details in the distance. I blur and lift paint to push the buildings and the bridge further into the fog. Once the first strokes of the focal point are in, I'm committed. This layer is desaturated like the initial washes, but shifted slightly towards red to increase the contrast. My goal is to define the area around the large building on the right without letting it become the focus. I'm giving weight to the right side of the painting, but in a way that's based on atmosphere, not objects. In a scene like this, you only see what the fog allows you to see. I treat the reflections the same way, with less definition between the shapes. They're darker near the seawall and fade into a lighter gradient towards the foreground. One of the most defined parts of this painting is the reflected light in the water. I make sure not to exaggerate their size. Their impact comes from subtlety. The lights go in after I remove the masking fluid. Despite everything I've said about values and focal points, I place the darkest paint in the entire piece on the left side. I do it to anchor the composition and balance the dominant shapes on the right. Even with the darkest value, the area stays small and abstract. just a few light poles and the overhanging roadway. And then I add a few more details and small adjustments to maintain the atmospheric mood. It feels good to complete the first painting in this series. Here's a sneak peek of what's coming next, 2 studies from the next piece. I'm Lonnie Ash, and you can find more about my art at lonnieash.com.